Welcome to My Body, My Bump, My Baby, where we help women be empowered, intentional mothers. This podcast is best enjoyed sipping tea or taking a stroll in nature. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be substituted for professional psychological or medical advice, diagnoses, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician, midwife, or other qualified health provider with any questions about your personal situation, health, or medical condition.
Welcome back to My Body, My Bump, My Baby. Today we are going to be talking about all things third trimester. We have covered the first and the second trimester throughout season 2, and I am in the later stage of my third trimester. I feel like all of a sudden you hit 35 weeks and then you think, okay, at least for me, it was like, okay, now this is kind of real.
Yeah, it's
more
pretty
real now. I know today you were like, we should probably sit down and talk about this. I'm like, yeah, probably.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like...
First baby, it's different. Second baby, I'm like, what am I doing?
It's like you have time, right? At the beginning, You're like, there's time, there's so much time, too much time. And then poof, 35 weeks, and you're like, actually running out of time now. And I need to start thinking about some things. Hannah kind of being towards the end of third trimester, we thought it would be a good time to kind of go over some of the things, but also to let you know that Hannah's going to take a little break from the podcast in preparation for
my maternity leave too.
Yeah, but kind of getting ready to have baby and then postpartum and having some time to just be at home and relax. So we won't have Hannah on the podcast for a little bit of time after this episbut
unless we have pre-recorded birth story episodes.
Right. There's a couple of pre-recorded
birth stories, so you might hear my voice
stories
there.
But then we're going to have a bunch of great guest speakers and a lot of great topics still ready to come while she's getting her rest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm taking that first 40 days, hopefully seriously, like we've discussed in some previous podcasts too. And
right.
But I mean, I have put my foot down on taking new clients and that type of stuff, which is hard to do sometimes.
It's super hard to do.
It's opportunity.
Right.
Yeah, but, I remember this from last time, and last time when I was working at a company that I used to work for, they gave you 4 weeks pre-due date off, which was great.
That's amazing.
A part of your leave, and that slowdown was really important, in my opinion. I think it's really important for everyone, and because it ends up just signaling to your body and your baby that it's safe.
Yes, that you're ready.
Yeah.
Like we're ready to go. And I think it also, we talked about this in a previous podcast, but for the people that are able to do that little bit of a slow down period before baby comes, it does allow your mind the ability to actually kind of start taking like little baby steps into labor land. The more we can relax, the more we can rest and kind of turn off the checklist in our head of all the things to do, whether it's like work related, home related, kiddo related, or even labor related. Just turn off all the checklists. I just think it puts us in a better place to start labor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that. And I think it also, especially for this being my second time around, I see it as like an opportunity to finally be like, okay, I only have like 5 things to focus on instead of 27.
Oh my gosh.
I gave my child.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So what is your list looking like here at 35 weeks?
Of things I have to do?
Yeah, left on your list. What's left on your list?
So,
well, not what specifically, but like how many things are left on your list?
My big things that I have planned for March are just, honestly, the chiropractor acupuncture and pelvic floor PT.
I love
my
it.
midwife appointments.
So this is
And
just
then-
self-care.
Yeah, and then April I have no appointments scheduled except for midwife appointments, and I have one pelvic floor PT appointment scheduled at the end of the month in April.
Fantastic.
I have nothing scheduled out otherwise.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, and
Good
I
work.
don't think I've ever done. Well, I guess I probably did this the last time too. But I mean, the rest of the year, I'm like, what am I doing? Well, I mean, my sister is getting married, but there's that on the calendar. But
Like way after April?
yeah.
Nice.
So we'll see. I was also put my foot down on that one.
I think there's something fantastic about like, okay, I have, some self-care appointments leading up to.
and massage. That's true self-care in my opinion.
Yes. Leading up to the due date, after the due date, nothing. One of the things I noticed in our prenatal yoga classes is, during pregnancy, moms have a rhythm of what they do, right? Like I get up, I go to work, I do these things, on this day I come to yoga, on this day we do this. And right, they have like the rhythm of life and then they have their baby. And the process of having a new baby uproots
Shakes
everything
you.
so much that they are suddenly in this place where they're like, what did I used to do?
Yeah.
Like, which could be very disorienting. God, I can't get that word out of my mouth.
Disorienting.
Okay, I did
Yeah.
get it.
Yeah.
But if you just left space for that, like you just did, where you just said, I literally have nothing planned for my life after the baby is born, it kind of gives it space and room to unfold and also gives it permission to change.
Yeah.
Right? Like I give my life permission to have a new rhythm, create a new rhythm. Like we'll just clean slate it
Yep.
and just say, what's the new rhythm after baby arrives?
Yeah, and it's a hard thing to do. Very, very hard.
I can imagine.
I think that I've had to do it more like with my husband being deployed too, of over the past like 5 weeks or whatever, not 5 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, I have no idea thus far. But just even being like, okay, nap time is not going to be at this time today, and we are going to now cancel what we have this afternoon. Just you learn to be more flexible. But
Right.
man, it's hard.
Right.
If you're ready, if you're used to control or used to controlling things, like it's a lesson.
Or if you're a busybody, like
Yeah.
I'm a busybody, I don't usually feel okay doing nothing.
Yeah.
That feels very uncomfortable for me. So the idea of having a clean slate on the calendar is, for me, actually, it's kind of freaky, like a little scary. Like I don't know that I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, I used to not be okay with it, and now I'm like, great. I have nothing. This is great.
I think that we can trust if there's nothing that things will start to come in.
fill in.
fill in the space.
Yes. And that like brings us to a good point too of you have a due date and you're like expecting maybe to hit that 40 weeks. And
Oh my gosh.
yeah, but what if baby comes a little early? Or what if you're sitting it out until 42, even 43 weeks?
It's a head game. And I feel like that head game kind of starts like at 39 weeks, maybe even 38 weeks. I even have some mamas in prenatal yoga where 36 weeks because they're like, oh my God, technically at any point now I can have this baby, right? But the closer you get to that 40-week mark, the due date, I mean, it's almost like you're holding your breath the whole time.
Yeah. I don't know what to expect because I had Oliver at 39 and I had not had those feelings yet. So I was kind of like surprised. And then, but I also lied about my due date. Told just the white lies about my due date last time. And
Was it earlier or later, your white lie?
Later.
Oh, later.
I put 2 weeks later because I did not want people texting me saying, hey, Hannah, how are you doing? Oh, that's coincidental. It's right around my due date.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, people care and they're excited,
yes,
but also
yeah.
it could be
But
stressful.
it's stressful. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. You have like the whole, checking in on you, wanting, there truly is a piece of like, we want to see if the baby's been born. Like, I promise you, I'll tell you. I'll tell you the day after it happens. But,
Right.
So I'm like in this pregnancy, because I had Oliver at 39 weeks, I'm having to do more, I think, even to mentally prepare myself to think about going. at like
Longer.
42. Yeah.
It is a head game. My cousin, her first two babies, she had at, I think, about 37 weeks. Maybe one was a little bit earlier, one was a little bit later. So somewhere in there, 37 weeks. So baby number 3, she was just like, I have babies at 37 weeks, right? And I offered to be a doula for her. I flew out. She lives in California. I flew out to California, and we based it on, she's like, well, my babies always come early, so you should come early. And we went by, and then another week went by, and she was losing it. I mean, mentally, she was not handling it.
You feel like you're on a timeline.
Well, and she was getting more uncomfortable than she'd had ever gotten before because she'd never had to experience a baby that big in her body, right? And
pretty sure my baby is probably as big as my first one right now, though.
Right, they grow bigger each
Yeah.
each subsequent pregnancy, right?
Yeah.
She ended up. She's always had all of her babies unmedicated, completely unmedicated. Third baby, she was like mentally so in her head about it that she signed up for an induction. And I thought, wow, this is so strange. But she just got in this headspace where she was just like, wow, this baby needs to get out. She didn't end up having an induction in the end. She ended up leaving the hospital, which was a good thing for her. And the baby came like a week later. But
You do start getting into I hear about this, the mindset of like, will this baby come out of me? Am I going to be pregnant forever?
Yeah.
Even though you know that's not going to happen.
it's almost like there is this place where you're like, oh my gosh. Well, maybe for a lot of people prior, there's this place where like, I love it. I'm not ready. And it's hard to imagine that you will be ready. But all of a sudden there's like a switch and you're like, oh my gosh, I am so ready to get this baby out of me. The baby has to get out of me. And then there's a little part of you that maybe starts to, like you said, kind of believe like, this is who I am now.
It's like when you believe, you just believe your thought, like it's your thoughts talking to you, not
Right.
actual
Like,
heart.
I'm just going to be this pregnant person forever. The baby is never going to come out.
Yeah, I'm going to be like 97 weeks pregnant, the gestational age of an elephant or whatever it is. Well, and that's just a part of birth getting real. And also you like start thinking about it. You start thinking a lot of the what ifs and your mind races and how do you kind of filter through those thoughts.
Well, and not to mention, the body starts to do some things. It's starting to prepare a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
And so every time your body does a little bit of preparation, you kind of get like, oh, is this it? Or are we going to have the baby now? And
Especially first baby, too.
right? Because you don't know what to
Yeah.
expect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you don't know what to expect. I was talking to my mom. She was asking me today about like Braxton Hicks and experiences with that. I was like, oh, yeah, I've been having that since like 22 weeks or something. And then I was like cracking up. I was like just comparing it. And she's like, isn't it kind of cool when it like you feel the tightening sensation? And I was like, yeah, it is. And it really cracks me up when people are like, oh my gosh, so uncomfortable. And I'm like, just wait. But it passes really quickly, usually. But yeah, it's just your body starts doing a lot more of that physically.
Yeah.
Your weight gains going up. And oftentimes it's uncomfortable because you look different. You're like, you're gaining the weight.
Right.
And in a standard medical system, or the allopathic medical system, there's a standard weight gain expectation as well.
Right.
So if you're gaining less or more, we talked about this in other episodes too. I think second trimester we talked about this in depth. But if you're gaining less or more, you may be comparing yourself to the scale or to the chart or to others that you know, to another pregnancy. Like for me, I've gained more weight this pregnancy, but I have the mindset of, oh, that's wonderful. I need to gain more weight.
Well, or some people start to do this funny birth math where they're like, oh my gosh.
By the time.
This baby is so big. My I don't know, anatomy scan. They're saying the baby weighed this much. And if I calculate how many pounds the baby should have gained from then to now, then I got to push out.
12.
Yeah, I got to push out. Am I going to have to push out like a 10-pound baby? And then they start thinking about that. Like, oh my gosh, how am I going to push out a 10-pound baby? Well, that's super rare, by the way.
Even though I think it's kind of cool because I'm like, your body nourished a 10-pound baby.
Right.
And you birthed a 10-pound baby.
And I honestly, personally, I feel like juicy babies are where it's at.
Yeah.
Because juicy babies make you worry a lot less.
Mm-hmm. And I think like one of the mantras that I practiced last time around, and it just has stuck with me, is my baby's size is perfect for my body. We birth easily. And I think that's an important one.
Yes.
Regardless of the size, whether your baby's small or big, like there is a perfection there.
Well, and here's, there's the concern that some people have is like, oh my gosh, pushing out this big baby is going to be so painful.
You know the size of their head?
The vagina doesn't know the difference, my friend. 6-pound baby, 10-pound baby, the vagina's not going to be happy with it either way,
Yeah. Yeah, even though it's meant to do it. Like it's there, it's meant to do it. And then with that weight gain, too, comes some different aches and pains. You might be feeling baby even like moving into a different position, dropping more into your pelvic region.
Yeah.
So your space in your body changes, too.
A lot of pressure can be in your hips and in your, pubic bone area. And I feel like second, third time moms tend to carry, especially end of third trimester, they carry a lot lower. I had this one mama, she was so cute. She came in into yoga one day, and I think it was her third baby. And she was like, as she walked in the door, she goes, "Do you hear that?" And I'm like, "What?" She was like, "The sound of a bell dinging." And she was like, "That's my baby's head. Ding, 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 between my legs."
Was she feeling that?
She felt like she had a baby head down
goodness.
between her legs. So every time she was walking, it was like, ding,
Oh,
ding.
dang. Oh, my goodness. Yeah. Yeah. And so, one positive piece to that is that if you were experiencing heartburn toward the end of pregnancy, at least, if you were experiencing heartburn in the second and third trimester, baby dropping might be creating more space up there. But that doesn't necessarily mean your heartburn's going away. I mean, Oliver didn't even drop until I was in labor, I guess.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
For a lot of people, it happens around 37 weeks, and then baby grows into that new space that they created.
Yeah.
But you do get a few weeks of reprieve where you're like, oh gosh, I feel so much more comfortable.
Yeah, absolutely. And so some things you can do to help relieve that physical challenge that's going on in your body is so yoga can be absolutely wonderful in this space. So moving your body, think of pelvic tilts, or I love what is it called when you sit kind of in a clamshell type of thing, and then you rotate your hips back and forth. That's one of my favorite ones.
Oh yeah, I don't even know if we have a name for that, but
because we just
do it,
and then people follow.
Yeah,
that's one of my favorite ones. And same with doing things that'll stretch your psoas, so lunges, and I love inversions as well, gentle inversions. I was a little bit worried about doing them because my baby's in a really ideal position right now, and my midwife was even like, think about it this way: you're just continuing to create ideal space. So your baby's not going to flip, and if they flip, they're supposed to flip. Okay.
I mean, there's something really nice about inversions.
It stretches your round ligament. It gives a
relief.
break, to your round ligament, which you're not going to get really any other way.
We do a modified down dog in prenatal yoga that is on the wall, but the thing that I love about it is I feel like
it opens your chest,
which is hard in pregnancy because I feel like the bigger the baby gets, the more our heart starts to roll in towards baby, and
and your breasts just get bigger.
Yeah, and weightier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so they're rolling.
Everything's pulling forward towards baby.
I think there's also a spiritual aspect to that too. Of you have your heart is it's not closing off, but it's getting protective. Yeah. So, I mean, that's where also massage can be really great because they can open up your chest and your pectoral space
Yes.
and just create that ahead of nursing,
Yeah.
which can be really, really helpful. I was having my massage therapist work on that a couple weeks ago because I'm just getting like, ugh. And I was like seeing green. I'm like, this is the heart chakra as it was happening. So that can be really helpful for discomfort, the massage piece, along with the prenatal yoga.
I like the massage in the sense that I feel like when you're pregnant, especially third trimester pregnant, there's just a lot of movement that's no longer accessible.
Oh, yeah.
It's very hard to
like you're not going to sleep on your back. I mean, maybe you will if that's okay for you, but yeah.
You don't have access to care for some of the parts of your body anymore. And it's nice to have a set of hands that can get up on there and do that for you.
Yeah. And same with chiropractic. Like same thing, Webster certified chiropractor.
Oh my gosh. You know, when I have mamas who come in with like hip pain or a lot of times because of the hormone relaxin, the pubic bone will get a little bit out of alignment, and there's like a tiny little twist in it. It's super uncomfortable though. Chiropractors, if you go see the chiropractor, you know, they can just like get it all situated and realigned and bring so much comfort. And honestly, outside of chiropractic, I haven't seen a lot of success in bringing the pelvis back in alignment.
I've seen chiropractic and then like physiotherapy, like myofascial release with like PT, that type of stuff. Those PT. Are the two things that can really do that. I mean, after I do yoga and I go into the chiropractor, she's like, your pelvis is really out. I was like, I know. I did a lot of yoga today. Put it back in. She's like, it probably would go in tomorrow anyways, like slide back in. But the yoga just does other things for me too.
Yeah.
Like, I need the yoga.
Yeah.
Yeah. But chiropractic, and this might be when you're upping your visits every week too. And so we've talked about this in first and second trimester as being a really important piece of like your body's alignment and teaching your body to prepare for labor. But maybe in the second trimester or third trimester, you're going to maybe even 3 times a week toward the end to keep your
to the
alignment.
chiropractor.
Yeah,
and a lot of insurance will cover that, right?
I don't think a lot. Some insurances do.
Some do.
Yeah, I know. I had my last insurance did cover it. This one does not. But
poop.
But there's a lot of like buying packages and that type of stuff can be really helpful to bring down the cost of like per visit, and it's totally worth it. Totally worth it. Same with acupuncture. That can help with things that you're having there, or some feelings that you're having, both emotional and physical. There is also a part of acupuncture that can help support your body's ability to be ready for labor. So it's not an induction, but it is teaching, like telling your body that you're ready when you get past that 41 week mark. That's often recommended if that's something that's of interest to you. We mentioned pelvic floor PT a little bit, so maybe you're doing that ahead of time.
Well, what role would you be doing? What role would pelvic floor PT take in third trimester? Because I always think of it as either postpartum or preparatory for maybe somebody who has a very tight pelvic floor in pregnancy.
So I think about it as like a lot of internal work of like learning to release. Also making sure there's not trigger spots internally that are going on, just to make your birth experience easier and baby's experience too, like not getting into a position that's uncomfortable. But also they don't just do internal work or just say, we're going to work on your pelvis. They do a lot of like fascial work as well in other parts of your body to make space. Like when I've been working with the pelvic floor PT, helping make space in my rib cage, also making space into my like psoas area and iliosacral ligament when I've had some challenges there. So that can be really helpful too. But it also, like for me, it's made me more comfortable to know like where I am in my healing process from the last birth and know that this birth is different, and I'm like have a clean slate.
Oh, that's
it.
good to know.
Yeah. And then craniosacral, other types of body work can just help with the relaxation, nervous system alignment piece. So there's a lot going on physically in the body. You
A lot.
Breathing.
Yes.
I'm like sitting over here like but it's actually a lot better than it has been the last couple of weeks because I think my baby has gone a little bit lower. So I'm like, I have more space. Yay.
I can breathe.
Yeah. But going into that space thing again, and nutritionally, oh my gosh, I'm like, how do I eat past 6 p.m.? I'm like full. I'm not full.
Well, how do you have a full meal?
You don't,
right?
ever. Yeah.
That's no longer a thing. That's kind of gone away. You just kind of have all of these small little meals and bunch of little snacks, which I don't know, is good and kind of bad too. It's kind of a bummer.
Yeah, it is kind of a bummer. It's also harder when like you're on the go a lot because if you have these set meal times, like how do you eat in between them? And then you add in the liquids and the electrolytes that you need. And you're like, how do I have enough space in
you
this
don't.
region? You really don't.
You don't. You just have to space it out throughout the entire day.
So you're peeing a lot as well. And then like I've found I have to wake up at night sometimes and like have a handful of cashews. So I'm like going back to first trimester on that. Or drink a little bit of water, etc. So that's a little bit hard. But this is where it's extra important if you can with all of your snacks that you're having or these small meals to make sure you're getting the fat and the protein in.
Right.
To keep you satiated but also give you the nutrients to keep building that baby
yes.
in your body and keep the energy
They do
going.
a ton of growth.
Yeah.
They're always doing a ton of growth, but they're doing a ton of growth and preparation here at the end as well.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, and then keeping up with your supplements, if that's what you're taking. I personally take a bunch of organ meats because I'm not going to eat a bunch of organ meats right now. I just can't. So I'm taking a lot of organ supplements and I'm having high nutritive herbs, herbal teas like nettle and red raspberry leaf and some alfalfa in there. And then when I'm drinking water, and this is really important for anyone, not just with me drinking water, but when you're drinking water, you need electrolytes. You can't just drink water throughout this. Like you would notice a difference. Yeah.
I see this. It's a notable difference. I see it in our ultrasound studio all the time where these mamas are coming in with these big jugs of water and I turn on the ultrasound and they hardly have any amniotic fluid. And they're shocked. They're like, what? Why? I'm drinking water all the time. I'm just like, yes, but you're flushing all of the minerals out, all the electrolytes out. It's just...
You need the minerals in there. And I mean, I got zapped on this when I decided, like, when I wasn't keeping up and I realized, like, I'm getting dizzy at night.
Oh, no.
Yeah. That was a couple of days. And I'm like, oh, I need electrolyte packets. Duh. I was out of them. So that's why. But even you can do an electrolyte packet. You can put even like a little bit of salt in your water with some magnesium. And I like putting lemon in and the ice, and then you just don't taste any of it.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Yep. Super easy. So nutritionally, keeping up with all of that as much as you can and building those calories. Like the scale is there just to be there. You need to keep gaining weight. Like you want to keep gaining weight where you can. We've talked a little bit about heartburn. Also, like, this is where you are likely finding out the positioning of your baby in one way or the other, whether that's with touch or with ultrasound.
This can be a super stressful time.
Oh, yeah.
I have so many mamas who are so stressed out. You know, babies, if they have space, they play.
Move.
Yeah, they play in there. They flip and flop and turn and do this and that. And so, you know, if they have space, that's what they're going to do. I hear this all the time in the yoga studio. The mamas will come in and they're maybe like 28 weeks and they're like, my baby's breech. I'm like, well,
They still have a lot of space, yeah.
Goodness gracious. They're tiny little bits in this big old body. I'm not saying that you're huge.
And they
I'm just saying
curl
that
up, though, too.
they get in this ball and they roll around and they can move so much. And also, who cares? Because, there's so much time before it's time for baby to be born, right? Literally another 20 weeks at that point. So I wouldn't worry about positioning.
Not 28 weeks, another 20 weeks.
Oh, well, not 20 weeks. Yeah, you're right.
12 to 15 weeks.
Another 10 weeks. We'll just say 10. Thank you for doing the math.
Wait, 20 weeks.
Oh, she's just going to be pregnant forever.
Yeah, forever.
But,
But it's stressful, especially in our culture, too, where breech birth isn't normalized. And like, depending on how you're choosing to birth and where you're birthing to, whether that's state or whether it's like location within a state, there are different choices that you can make.
Right. It has the ability to change your birth plan, basically.
Yeah. But sometimes, too, and like, I just want to put a note out there, like, if you do everything that you can to turn a breech baby and that baby doesn't want to turn, but they get into even a more ideal breech position, this is something my midwife was talking to me about. Like, you're doing the Webster thing, the Webster chiropractic, and baby fits better and it goes into, like, even a better breech position. They're then asking you, well, are you going to honor me in this? And I'm like, that was really interesting.
Yeah.
Sometimes babies just, there's breech for a reason. They have shorter cords. They feel safer in that way or in that thing. So, but it's stressful. It's so stressful.
Right.
In the culture, thinking about that.
I think that, one of the things that pregnancy asks us to do, and specifically in third trimester, is to be flexible and be open-minded. And I think, position a baby is one of those true tests about how flexible can we be about our plans.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah. Yep. And I've thought about it since the beginning.
Right.
I've talked to you about it.
Right.
We've
had lots of talks about flexibility.
But also like just position of baby. I think about that so often. Yeah, for some reason. And with my like baby moves, like, or I feel a significant movement, I'm like, where are you? What are you doing? But I'm like, okay, I'm going to trust that you are in whatever position you're supposed to be in at this very moment right now. But it's hard when you hear things that are not what you see as ideal.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Sleep is impacted sometimes because baby is deciding they're going to move, and they talk about baby sleep schedules starting to form around this time. And
that's a little scary sometimes too.
Oh
right?
my gosh! I'm like, wait, I'm going to bed. It's 10. Like, I just put my, 2-year-old down. It's 9:30 p.m. and I'm getting into bed. And you are all over the place, and we're going to have to talk about this. And I'm like, that's my time to sleep. Or like in the middle of the night when you wake up, or like at 4 a.m. I wake up and I'm like, you're moving all over. And it's because I have to pee. I wake up and I'm like, oh my gosh.
And then you notice that this little one's wiggling.
I'm like, this is going to be my life for a little while. Yeah. But then you also sometimes worry, like, why are you not moving? Are you sleeping?
Wake up.
Yeah, and then and then you're like, why did I do that? But the sleep's impacted by movement of baby, peeing all of the time. Even if you don't have to pee, you get like stabbed somewhere, and then you wake up and you have to pee. But it's like nothing coming out. Also, like the hunger during the sleep hours, if you weren't able to get as much caloric intake.
Wake up
as your
just
body
feeling
needs.
super hungry.
Yeah. And I watched myself go through a couple of weeks of not nourishing my body as well as I could have. And then, so I have had to build that back up, and I'm finally up to like, maybe I'll wake up one time to eat versus wanting to like eat nuts 3 or 4 times a day or in the evening.
Night?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then falling back asleep. That's hard because your mind might be racing.
You're so awake.
Yeah. So I love a homeopathic remedy for this. It's called Coffea cruda. And the way homeopathy works is it's like a like for a like solves a like. So in a homeopathic form, coffee is made into a homeopathic form. And when you think about coffee, it makes your mind race. Like you're caffeinated, you're ready to go.
Right.
So homeopathically, it is actually helps your mind settle.
Interesting.
and go back to sleep. So this is a great one I love for like pregnancy insomnia or just insomnia in general.
Interesting.
Your kids acting psycho before bedtime.
You give it to your toddler?
I do, yeah. Mm-hmm,
yeah.
Yep. Just same dosing. And then naps.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Yes,
And
please.
I did not appreciate the power of naps until I have been a single parent at home for the last few weeks with Tony being deployed. So naps are amazing.
Yes.
And if you can find time to take them, even if you have a toddler and you're just taking a nap while the toddler naps in the same bed, it's glorious. You wake up and you're just refreshed.
Yes.
And I've decided that's how I'm going to survive with Tony gone too, even with like 2. But my thought process is like, shoot, now you're like with the baby. I'm like, now you're running, like moving during nap time. Like this is not cool.
Yes.
We need to all nap at the same time.
Were you able to get naps in? Were you getting naps in prior to Tony leaving?
A little here and there, but I wasn't they were not a priority of mine.
Oh, and now that you're flying solo,
Yes, they
as
are
a
a big
solo
priority.
mom,
Yes.
yeah, you're like, okay, this is like
Yeah.
how we're gonna get through the day.
Yep. And even if I can't nap or fall asleep in the chunk of time that I have, I'm just laying there. As much as I can,
there's
or reading
so
or
much wisdom
something.
in that.
Yeah.
Just being still and calming the mind.
Yeah.
And maybe even, I struggle with naps. I would love to take naps. This was one of my biggest difficulties as a birth worker because I'd be up all night doing a birth, and then, about 10 in the morning, it would be time to go to sleep, and I just cannot sleep during the day. But I've learned that if I just lay down and make it dark and just close my eyes and sit still, my body does get some level of feeling refreshed. I mean, not as good as if I actually fell asleep, but
Yeah.
I mean, it does refresh.
It does feel good still. And it might not feel good immediately, like, oh, I couldn't nap, I get up. But after you're up for a little bit, you feel
You realize that
Yeah.
it was actually somewhat effective.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's the sleep piece is probably one of the biggest challenges that comes about.
I feel like some of us, this would be me, so I'm kind of speaking about myself a little bit, but some of us are like goers. I kind of mentioned that earlier, right? Like I'm comfortable with movement. I'm not comfortable being still, but I think that towards the end of 3rd trimester, we really have to find a way to embrace this slow down.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And give permission. I think part of it is you can give yourself permission for a nap. You can give yourself permission to have a really super slow Saturday morning where you stay in your jammies for a long time and you just, you move from the bed and you move to the couch and just, don't have any plans.
Yeah.
Don't have to go anywhere. Don't have to get dressed. I mean, you may have to take care of a toddler.
Yeah.
But
you don't have to have to do that.
you don't have to be presentable.
And then not feeling guilty
Yes,
about it too.
exactly.
Finding a way to just feel like this is normal right now for where I am.
This is okay. And this is what is needed actually towards the end. Your body's working really hard at creating this human.
Yeah. And you're just really having to learn to embrace that slowdown. We talked about this in depth in the beginning too. And just allowing your mind to catch up to learn what your body is trying to tell you.
Right.
Or slow down like your body. Catch up is probably the wrong word right there.
One way or one thing to keep in mind that helps the mind realize that we are preparing for having a baby, which gives the body the cue that we're ready to have the baby, is to tie up all of those loose ends. You know what I mean? Like that to-do list that we were talking about at the beginning of the show needs to get to 0, from 27 items to 10 items to 5 items and then 0 items.
I mean, it has to be with perfectionism.
No.
Because I was thinking about this too. I mean, midwife came over, we're going through all of my home birth materials and stuff. I'm like, I need to organize this. But she's like, it's all there. I'm like, but it's not organized. She's like, it's just there though. We know it's there. I'm like,
I don't know that it has to be organized. I think it just needs to be in one spot.
It is all in one spot.
That's all you need.
But my head is like, oh, on my to-do list, I need to organize that. But that's one of my lower tier to-do list things, I guess.
Sometimes I feel like as long as it's in one spot, it's fine. I mean, because
I'll figure it out later.
your method
It's
of
gonna be a mess.
organization is not going to be
Yeah.
what the midwife assistant is necessarily going to need.
Yeah, it's going to be a mess anyways. And like, I mean, that's just how I.
But I would say, finish the projects,
Big projects.
pack the birth bag, or get the home birth
Stuff together.
items together. Get your car seat installed if you haven't done that yet.
Yeah, I was thinking about that.
Get all of the labor foods, right? Mama's labor foods.
For me, I'm like,
partner's
this
labor
seems too early because I'm
foods.
just going to eat them.
That's okay.
Yeah, I know.
You eat them and then you buy more.
I know, but I have to do it again.
It just depends on where you're at. If you're,
Yeah.
a person who is like, oh my gosh, 36 weeks, everything's fair game, then it's time to go get the snacks.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you just keep snacking on them until baby comes.
Yeah.
Because you never know. That's the thing, right? Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
unless
true.
it's an induction. But, I mean, otherwise,
Even
you don't
then,
know.
You don't really know.
Yeah.
Could be earlier. And then same with like handing off your work responsibilities, pets.
I feel like that can be really hard to do, especially if you're, you really take a lot of pride in your work, and it's
yeah.
hard to hand your projects off to somebody else
Until
and know
the
it's going to be
baby
a while.
comes. Yeah. And then baby comes and you're like, why'd I care? Screw that. I can't
Right.
even think about it.
Before that, though,
But
you're like, I'm
before
going to be
that-
twiddling my thumbs. They're not going to do it right. They're not going to do it the way I want them to do it, whatever, But
You're going to make me look bad. Yeah.
but it is a necessary part of the process. It does need to be
that's part
done.
of the slowdown piece. Like
I would
the
say
mental
no
piece.
later than 38 weeks. Hand it all off at 38 weeks so that you don't have all of those responsibilities, so that your mind can settle down, right?
Mm-hmm.
Same for parenting. Right? We need somebody to help with the babies, the other kiddos in the house, or the pets if you have to do the dog walks,
Oh, the pets.
right?
Yeah. So fun.
You're
I love
like,
them.
"Whoa."
No, I love them to death, but I said this the other day again to my mother who's visiting, and I was like, if it's not one, it's the other. Like Oliver's sleeping well, and then I have the dog barking in the middle of the night, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what is
Right.
going on?
Right?
The cat meows. Like there are too many cards here.
Yes. Too many variables at play for
Yeah.
the sleep situation.
Yeah.
And, we're rounding the end of this pregnancy journey. We're getting into, the birth journey. But, it's a nice, if you haven't had time to focus on this yet because you've been doing a lot of preparation, or you have a toddler that you're chasing around, fit in some time to celebrate. I mean, that's one of the really nice things to do. I feel like ideally when you're done taking all the childbirth classes and you're like, okay, and you had the baby shower and, and everything's feeling like, okay, now I'm just waiting and I'm twiddling my thumbs. Good time to start doing some celebrate, right?
Yeah.
So have your blessing way.
Which we just did an episode on.
Yeah. I don't know how the order that we're releasing it.
I think that I don't know.
Well, hopefully you'll hear the blessing way and you'll know what we're talking about.
If the episode is not released in Blessing Way yet, it will be released very soon.
Right.
In the order.
Do your photo shoot. Oh my gosh. I know some mamas want to do that at 36 weeks or earlier. That's fine, but do it. I mean, this is such a unique and special time. And I think that, if you're like on the fence, I would say do it.
Yeah.
And
if you don't like them, you don't have
put
to
them
look
aside.
at them or show anyone.
Yes. And then 5 years down the road, you're going to be like, oh, I really want to look at those pictures. And you can look at them lovingly and be like, oh my gosh, that was so wonderful. But I guarantee I've had a lot of mamas who are like, no, I don't think I want that. I don't want it. And then 2 years down the road, they're like, I wish I would have done that. And you can't get it back.
Yeah.
Right?
True.
So
Yeah,
just do it.
Yeah, just like you can't get back the feeling of like your belly tightening or the baby moving in there. Yeah.
Yeah, they're all special and unique. And it's kind of, maybe once, twice in a lifetime. But,
Yeah.
celebrate those things.
Absolutely. And like you can do other things to celebrate too. Like you put on here like henna bellies. You'll see a lot
I
of
love
photos
henna
with
bellies.
those. Yeah, I know you do.
I love henna bellies. I love belly
Belly
casts.
casts.
Belly casts are so beautiful.
Massages. That's self-care again, but I mean that's also like if you see that like I like seeing massage as I try to look at it as this is like my true like self-care time versus like a have to do appointment to prepare.
Yeah.
Like, for that massage and go get a foot rub or have a partner or someone rub your feet.
Yes.
Yeah.
You deserve
Take
it.
a bath.
Yes. Get a soak in.
Yep. And even with little kids, this is when screen time is really nice. Here's your screen. I'm going to take a bath.
Yes.
Don't bother me. Yeah. So I think that there's some beautiful things that you can do to celebrate. And I mean, baby showers too. That's a celebration.
Yeah.
In the Blessing Way episode that you'll eventually get to listen to, we talk about a little bit about the difference between them. And then prepping for the journey.
Yeah, so this is just like, first time mom, maybe, actually not even just first time mom, second time mom too, but first time mom, you take the class, right? You take the childbirth class. Don't take the class and then don't think about it anymore. Like practice, prepare your mind, do the practice over and over. If you're doing like some type of hypnobirthing or hypno babies, use your hypno scripts. Try your breath coping practice. If you did the whole like put your hand in ice kind of thing and like settle the brain, the keep ups in yoga, right? Practice those and then allow your partner to practice. Like, I think, nowadays partners play such a big role in labor and they want to participate and they want to do a really good job for you. And I think it's unreasonable to have an expectation that they would knock it out of the park without ever practicing. So let them practice on you, which is nice because you can get some good rubs.
Yeah.
Right?
Like, they could also practice, giving you a foot massage.
That's what I'm saying. They can practice rubbing your shoulders. They can practice rubbing your back. Mm-hmm. They can practice drawing you a bath. That's actually a partner project that they would do when you were in labor, right? Like get the temperature right. Put the Epsom salts in it. You
don't want to be directing.
No, right. So let them practice. I think it's a great idea to, if you haven't done this yet, start visualizing the big event. That's the labor birthday, right? Like close your eyes and walk yourself through it and visualize yourself doing this thing.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's things that you might want to add to it that aren't just laboring. Like, do you want to bake a birth cake while you're like in the very beginning? Like just fun things like that make it less serious.
Right. Well, and if you think about it, it is a big event and it's a big physical event. And, if you were an athlete and you were preparing for the big race, I mean, you'd spend a lot of time visualizing the race and how you were going to do this turn and that turn and, and when you're going to take some snacks in, like those type of things. It helps calm the nerves, I think, It helps the mind know like, oh, this is the plan. Yeah. This is what we're going to do. And I have, even if it wasn't sports, even if it was like a speech.
Yeah.
Right? You don't write the speech down and never practice it. Right? Like I wrote down my birth plan, but that's it. Right?
Yeah.
No, practice it. Practice the speech. Practice the labor. Mm-hmm. And then, I think that it's easy for some people to really get in their head about like, oh my God, how am I going to get this baby out? And what if this and what if that? And, all of those things. I think, meditating, just having some time and space to allow your mind to quiet is super helpful.
Yeah, definitely. And especially when you have been, if you're go, like this is part of the slowdown.
Yes.
Too.
Yes.
Maybe that meditation piece is like during your nap even.
Or the very beginning of your nap.
Yeah.
That when you're like laying there and you can't calm down.
Visualization piece of it too. Well, we've covered a lot, I think, in this episode for third trimester. And everyone's experiences are different, but these are some things that we've found with like the women that we have worked with that have been really helpful in the headspace of this, whatever, trimester time or whatever it is,
Right.
as you get toward the end to meeting your baby and moving into postpartum. And I think that the reiteration of the slowdown is probably one of the most important pieces
It really is.
that you can bring about, because I think it also helps with your labor and your experience in birth and, yeah, your body.
All of them, right? The slowdown, the self-care. It's like if your body goes into labor, if it's been under a lot of stress and it's exhausted, what do you have to give to the labor?
Yeah.
Versus if you have relaxed and nourished your body and done all of the things to make sure that your body is at peak performance, then you go into a labor with everything you've got.
Yeah. Love that. Well, I look forward to meeting you all back soon. Not too soon, but I will keep, or B will keep everyone updated, I'm sure. And then the next episode, I think that we'll probably do in this little series is going to be in postpartum.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining today, and like us or give us a review or on whatever platform that you listen, and reach out if there's any topics that you want us to always
We
cover.
are on YouTube.
Cool.
So if you want to shoot us a comment, that's a good platform. You can also email us. I know podcast is not really easy to communicate. So send us a comment on YouTube.
Yeah. Thank you.